Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sunday Reads with Renee here at Simply Renee. My name is Renee. Today I'm doing a double book review on Sleep by Honor Jones and The Whisper Network by Chandler Baker. And these are two books that I planned to do a review on last week, but for anyone that watched my video last week, you're aware that I had to delay it for the time being due to an unexpected family emergency. Thankfully, it has been resolved. My mother is doing much better, and it turned out she also had a kidney stone as well, so she's in the way for full recovery, and we're very glad about that. But for today's book review, I'm doing these two books that have sort of similar themes to each other, and I think they'll be interesting to do a review on here in this video. Before I begin, though, I want to let everyone know that I will be revealing plot details, therefore spoilers are ahead, and I'll also be using alternative words and phrases due to YouTube rules and regulations. The first one is Sleep by Honor Jones. This is a 2025 novel that explores a young woman named Margaret who, as an adult, is confronting her childhood trauma. At the age of 10, Margaret was living a relatively normal childhood with family and friends, despite having a cold and distant mother. It was not a very good relationship as a child, and it still isn't even into her adulthood. But at the age of 10, everything changed for Margaret one summer when she experienced coming of age, but she also experienced an essay by a family member that she tries to block out for her own protection. Now at 35 years old, she's struggling with work and a recent divorce, as well as navigating a new relationship while trying to be a single parent to her two young daughters, as well as a co-parent with her ex-husband. And as she's trying to navigate these waters, she's forced to confront a lot of things she hasn't for many years that involve her trauma, where it came to a difficult relationship with her mother, who's still very cold and distant, but also confronting the trauma she blocked out so many years ago for her own protection that dealt with essay by a family member. And so this is really an exploration more than anything else at how Margaret confronts this trauma and also grapples with it and tries to go forward with this knowledge, while also trying to be the best parent she can to her two young daughters, considering her own strained relationship with her mother, who just wasn't the best mother that she could hope for because of the cold, distant relationship that her own mother presented to her. Now, Slate is a book that I did find to be well written, but I did see it as a disturbing one because of the very graphic depictions of SA, as well as the cold, distant relationship between a mother and daughter, and some other depictions in here as well. Nonetheless, I do think it was important to put this out there in the novel because it is something that a lot of people grapple with who've been through this, and the trauma they have that affects them even into adulthood that they still grapple with and try to get as much help with. And this is what Margaret herself experiences. She's going to her childhood home for a couple of days where she's trying to navigate all these things in her life, but she's also having to confront this family member who's still around that committed the essay on her over 20 years ago, and also is trying to have a better relationship with her mother while also struggling to have one with a mom who is still very cold and distant. And it also reflects a lot of what she's experiencing, not only as an adult in her relationships, especially her romantic ones, but also as a mother herself. She loves her daughters, she wants to be a good parent, but she struggles in how to be a good mother because of this strained, bad relationship she had with her own parent. And so it's a lot of things that she's going through on this brief trip that she's having for a couple of days to her childhood home. So it's partly confronting the trauma she never really confronted for so many years and how she moves forward with it, but it's also how she navigates relationships romantically, but also how she's going to navigate a parental relationship with her young daughters and where she goes from there. So I do think it's a well-written novel in many respects. I think it brings up these topics that are important to discuss and have a lot of thought-provoking narrative on it. It really drives the plot in a lot of ways for Margaret and how she becomes more of an adult and what she needs to do going forward. And the ending is something that I wasn't really expecting, and I thought I would want a different ending for it, but at the same time, it does make sense because sometimes this does happen in real life. And I do think it does get Margaret into a place where she starts the beginnings of overcoming this trauma. But I do think that Sleep is an interesting book, but just be forewarned, it does have a lot of triggering topics to it. The next one is The Whisper Network by Chandler Baker. This is a book published in 2019 that is a legal thriller while also touching on the subject of the corporate world in a post-Me Too era. Four women are working at this corporate law firm, and they know very well that their boss, Ames, is a sleazebag who doesn't treat women very well, and there is a silent knowledge that he has committed horrific mistreatment on some women, along with a bunch of inappropriate behaviors towards other women. And because of that, they don't like him, but don't really know how to bring him up on charges or any type of complaints with HR. Then, when the CEO of this corporate law firm passes away unexpectedly, Ames is expected to take over. For a woman, Sloane, Grace, Artie, and Rosalita, who work at this firm, don't want that because they know too well what Ames is capable of and what he has committed, and therefore they try to find ways to confront and expose Ames for these inappropriate behaviors so he doesn't take over as CEO and hopefully get some repercussions. And a lot of that takes place because it's now a post-Me Too era where things have changed drastically and they now feel they have a little bit of power to bring things forward so that way they can try to get some kind of justice and have Ames face some repercussions. There's also a list that's going around in the area of Dallas where they work, which is all about a list of bad men who have committed terrible atrocities on women, and they're circulating it around to show a type of solidarity support, even though it's a silent majority. And by silent majority, I mean these women want to come forward but don't know how, and so they're trying to really put this list out to show that there is support and solidarity between them and what they can do about it. And as a result, these women start to really try and form plans so they can confront and expose Ames for what he truly is. But things take a turn when Ames falls off a building and passes away. But then an investigation takes place to see if it actually was an accident, foul play, or if he chose to unalive himself. And as this investigation goes on, the four women start reliving a lot of things in their past, as well as where they go from here and trying to protect each other along with solidarity and find out what exactly happened to Ames. I think this was overall a well-written legal thriller. It's not my favorite book, but I do think it's an important one to read if you like legal thrills and also important subject matter that is triggering but also very essential to have thought-provoking discussion. A lot of it is very much centered in the corporate world, specifically this law firm between women in a post-Me Too era and how you go about legal proceedings that don't always benefit you or struggle to benefit you. There's a lot of themes on solidarity with women, and sometimes that doesn't always happen, and how we get to that point of solidarity. There's also some side stories about trying to balance your personal life with career demands, especially when you're a mother, trying to really balance all of that entirely too, including with marriage and relationships. So there's some interesting side stories there that really fit within the narrative plot, especially with Sloane's daughter, who's facing horrific mistreatment and bullying in her school. And so there's a lot of things happening here, but really at the heart and center of it is a post-Me Too era and how they handle Ames, who is a horrific monster that continues to use his power to take advantage of people who don't have as much power. So there's a lot of talk about power imbalances and power dynamics, and there's a lot of discussion that goes on, but mostly it's about how women come together to try and overcome a lot of things and find justice and repercussions for the horrific mistreatment they've been through, and how the system hasn't always worked for them, and that now in a post-Me Too era, they can find ways to really come forward with what they've experienced and the trauma they've gone through, and how they can somehow find a way to get some sort of justice. So this is one that I do recommend if you're interested in legal thrillers or these topics, which can be triggering, but I think are also very much thought-provoking and have been for a long time. And I think that's very essential to a lot of our daily life, especially in the workplace. And it is one that I do recommend. And this concludes my double book review of Sleep by Honor Jones and The Whisper Network by Chandler Baker. Now tell me what you think. Have you read these books? Do you agree with me, not agree with me? Are there books of the similar nature that have similar themes to what I discussed that you can recommend? Please let me know in the comments section. I welcome all discussions as always. Thank you again so much for tuning in. Please be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the notification bell. I'll be back next Sunday with a Sunday Reads video, on Wednesday with a regular video, and Friday with a food video as well. I'm also going to be putting out a lot of shorts this week, which I'm very excited for because they've been delayed for so long, but I'm very excited to release them this week, so be on the lookout for that. Thank you again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Bye!